I never thought my own brother and wife would betray me, or that my parents would side with them after everything they'd done. But when they came begging for money after my promotion, the whole twisted history between us exploded. What followed turned into the biggest fight of my life, and the moment I finally stood up for myself. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and 2 months ago, I finalized my divorce from my ex-wife, who's 27. She'd been cheating on me with my twin-aged brother for who knows how long, and I finally learned the truth 4 months back when she told me she was pregnant. At first, she tried insisting the child was mine, but the constant visits from my brother made everything feel off. Eventually, suspicion got the better of me. I went through her phone while she slept, and the messages I read made my stomach drop. When I confronted her, she scrambled to deny it. But she didn't have much room to lie anymore, so she admitted that she'd been having an affair with my brother for quite a while. My relationship with my family had been broken practically my entire life. Ever since I left home at 18, we'd barely exchanged a word. They'd always treated me like some unwanted extra, while my brother was the golden boy who could do no wrong. One of my earliest wake-up moments happened when I got accepted into a top college. I came home expecting to find some celebration for me. Instead, I discovered my parents had already thrown a party for my brother using my acceptance letter as the excuse. I stared at a cake with his name on it, even though I was the one who'd accomplished something. When I questioned them, they told me they didn't want him to feel left out, and that instead of throwing a tantrum, I should be lifting him up. That was the moment everything inside me cracked. That day, I swore I would never return, and I lived up to it. I got myself through college with loans, jobs, and sheer stubbornness. I rented a tiny place after graduating, shared with a friend. I cut off all contact. They never reached out either. Years passed. Then last year, my brother suddenly messaged me online saying they all wanted to reconnect because they missed me. I wasn't convinced, but a lot had changed in my life. I'd gotten married 2 years prior, had a stable job, a comfortable life, but deep inside, I'd never fully healed from my family's treatment. So I gave in and agreed to meet. It was stiff and awkward at first, but they were trying, or at least pretending to try, and I felt obligated to reciprocate. Inviting them to my home was the mistake that ruined everything. That's where my brother met my wife, now ex, and the two of them eventually started sneaking around behind my back. I had been genuinely excited when she told me she was pregnant. I imagined a family, a fresh start, but then the visits from my brother increased. At first I brushed it off, but soon he began touching her stomach, whispering things to the unborn baby, acting almost possessive in a way that made my skin crawl. My wife brushed off my concerns, but the feeling kept growing. Something wasn't right. 6 months into the pregnancy, I checked her phone. The truth was worse than anything I'd imagined. Their messages were explicit and detailed, all but confirming that the baby was his, not mine. Even worse, they planned to tell me after the birth, when it was too late, so she could divorce me and run off with my brother while the two of them lived off the child support I'd be forced to pay. She tried to deny everything at first, but the evidence was undeniable and she finally admitted it. That ended our 2-year marriage instantly, and predictably, my family sided with my brother and with her. All the warm words they'd used while reconnecting turned out to be nothing but empty air. When my ex and my brother announced online that she was divorcing me to be with him, the entire family cheered them on. Nobody cared that they had shattered me emotionally. Nobody cared that I had spent 6 months bonding with a baby that wasn't mine. My parents actually insisted I should be happy for the two of them because they'd found love, and pressured me to join their celebrations. That was the final straw. I cut them off again. Unfortunately, that decision complicated the divorce. They backed my ex's fabricated claims and helped her and her lawyer paint me as some controlling monster. They even rewrote history, saying they'd cut me off years ago because of my temper and misogynistic behavior. It was all lies. But because I was emotionally exhausted and didn't fight back, she walked away with a massive settlement and my car. The only thing I managed to keep was the house. Thankfully, where I live, there's no waiting period for divorce, and she didn't contest it. I wrapped everything up quickly so I could attempt to rebuild my life. I poured myself into work. I forced myself to focus, to grow, to move forward, and eventually that drive paid off. 2 weeks ago, I was promoted. Better pay, better role, a company car. Everything finally seemed to be turning around. I treated myself to a solo dinner at one of my favorite restaurants. Feeling good, I posted a photo online. That was my second mistake, because within days, my mother reached out, demanding that I visit. I ignored her messages, but she escalated and eventually showed up at my workplace, causing a scene so embarrassing that I agreed to visit her just to get her to leave. When I finally visited a few days later, my parents had clearly been using this settlement money to upgrade their home to accommodate the newborn, my brother's baby, who'd been born 3 weeks earlier. I suspected the alimony I was paying was subsidizing everything. My ex was asleep, my brother wasn't home, so I sat with my parents and waited for the point. 5 minutes of silence later, my father admitted that my brother had been fired, and the combination of settlement money and alimony wasn't enough to support 5 people. My parents, my brother, my ex-wife, and the baby. They'd seen my promotion post and wanted me to help out. They said it like it was completely reasonable. I was stunned, speechless. After everything, after they'd humiliated me, betrayed me, destroyed me, they still had the nerve to ask for money. I stood up without a word and headed for the door. That's when I ran into my brother entering the house. My parents begged me to stay and talk, but I walked past them. It was raining heavily, and by the time I reached my car, I was drenched and furious. As I fumbled for my keys, soaked and exhausted, my parents and brother followed me outside. They called my name, begged me to wait, begged me to hear them out. And then, for the first time, it was my brother who spoke. He actually asked me for help. Seeing him humbled like that, the guy who'd always strutted around like he was inherently superior, was surreal. I could tell it must have taken every ounce of pride he had left to stand there in the rain pleading. But I'd had enough. My patience snapped. I told them to leave me alone, that if they were so desperate they could just beg on the streets, because a random stranger was far more likely to feel sorry for them than I ever would. Then I got in my car and drove off, leaving them drenched and speechless. The truth? It felt incredible. After a lifetime of being their scapegoat, the outcast, the disposable son, getting to walk away, truly walk away, was liberating. But over the next 2 days, guilt started creeping in. My mother texted me nonstop, trying to appeal to whatever sense of duty I had left. I kept rereading her messages, fighting that old instinct to cave, the same instinct that had gotten me hurt over and over. Eventually, I realized what I needed to do. Nothing. I decided I wasn't going to give them a cent. I'd spent my entire life being abandoned by them, so why was I struggling to do the same now? I messaged my mother and told her to stop harassing me. If she didn't, I'd involve my lawyer. Her tone changed immediately. Soon after, my brother showed up at my house. He tried to talk to me. Talk meaning delivering a self-righteous lecture. He said that while he felt bad about how our parents treated me growing up, he couldn't help being the better son. That's why they favored him. He said I needed to stop being weird about it and just help them like any good son would. He said I was being childish for holding on to grudges. I laughed in his face. He sounded insane. I told him that instead of wasting his time trying to manipulate me, maybe he should go get a job. That struck a nerve. He blew up, shouting about how my jealousy had consumed me, how even my ex preferred him, and that I refused to help because I wanted revenge. I didn't even bother arguing. I just said, yeah, sure, revenge, whatever you need to tell yourself." He stormed off, yelling that he'd make me pay one way or another. I didn't take it seriously for even a second. He's all bark and no bite, always has been. 3 days later, they tried again. My brother couldn't get through to me, so my ex-wife called. I was tempted to let it ring, but I figured ignoring her would just lead to someone showing up at my door again, so I answered. She started sweet, sickeningly sweet. She thanked me for picking up, said she knew they didn't deserve kindness after how things ended, but that she hoped I could be the bigger person and help them through this rough patch. She even tried to guilt-trip me by claiming my parents supported me during childhood and she had been a devoted wife. It was unreal. My parents did nothing but tear me down my whole life. And she cheated on me with my brother, the same brother I used to cry about to her. I told her I was already giving more than I should. I reminded her she was still getting alimony she never deserved. She started crying, sobbing that I was cold, selfish, heartless. Then she threatened me. Said that if I kept refusing, she'd take legal action and demand even more alimony now that I was promoted. I told her to go ahead and try. The first time around, I'd been emotionally destroyed. I didn't fight, didn't defend myself, didn't counter her lies. I just wanted it to end. But now, I was ready. I wasn't that broken guy anymore. So when she actually filed for increased alimony, I fought back hard. I contacted all our mutual friends, people who only knew we'd separated, not the real reason. I told them everything. They were shocked and furious on my behalf. They agreed immediately to testify for me if needed. I also told my lawyer I wanted to eliminate alimony entirely. Over the next several days, I collected every shred of evidence I had. Texts, screenshots, anything proving their betrayal. I reached out to cousins who had witnessed my parents treating me like an outsider growing up. Even though we'd never been close, they agreed to help. My lawyers said our case was solid. When the hearing came around, I was prepared. My ex, my parents, and my brother looked smug when they walked in. I guess they expected me to roll over again. Instead, I brought out everything. Testimonials from friends, statements from relatives, evidence of manipulation, favoritism, abuse, and the truth about the affair. I didn't yell, I didn't break down, I just calmly laid out the facts. My family was speechless. Their faces went pale. My ex kept blinking rapidly like she was about to burst into tears. And it worked. Yesterday, the court officially terminated my alimony obligations. I damn near floated out of that building. The satisfaction of seeing their smug expressions vanish was indescribable. I planned on going home, grabbing some takeout, and watching a movie to celebrate. But of course, my family had to ruin even that moment. When I got home, I saw my brother's car parked in front of my house. My stomach dropped. I knew this wasn't good. Sure enough, they were all standing outside my door. My parents, my brother, and my ex. I told them to get off my property or I'd call the police. Instead of leaving, my dad started lecturing me about responsibility and family loyalty. He accused me of betrayal. He accused me of abandoning them in their time of need. He acted like I had personally ruined their lives by telling the truth in court. I refused to respond. I wasn't giving them what they wanted, a reaction. I just stood there silently, staring, letting them stew in their own delusions. My mother demanded I speak to my father respectfully. I stayed silent. They wanted a fight. They needed a fight. That's how manipulation works. Chaos first, guilt second. When silence didn't work in their favor, my brother snapped. He grabbed my collar and tried to swing at me, but my dad pulled him back in time. My brother screamed that I was a pathetic loser, jealous of him, jealous of my ex choosing him, jealous of everything. The irony was almost comedic. An unemployed man living off my money calling me a failure. I told them they had 5 minutes to get off my property before I called the police. And seeing as they were broke, jail time wasn't exactly something they could afford. That finally scared them enough to back off. After one last attempt by my mother to shame me, they left. It's been almost a full day without contact. I'm hoping truly hoping that this is the end of it. I've spent my whole life being mistreated, dismissed, exploited, but I'm done. I'm finally done. And that's where things stand now.